Hey, yo, welcome to the Lawson Brothers Podcast. What kind of an introduction was that? I'm fired up. I've had
It's
two
like
cups.
the beginning of a Blues Clues episode.
Hey, yo.
Hey-o!
I've had 2 cups of black coffee and 1 Cuban cortado this morning, so I feel
From
great.
Coastal?
Well, the coffee was from home. The Cuban cortado was from Coastal. Shout out to
Oh.
Coastal, who's
Oh, yeah.
still not sponsored us, but we're
Have
available.
you thrown any cinnamon syrup in your Cuban cortado
No, it's too
before?
sweet. Too sweet. There's a limit, man. There's a limit. But hey, it's gonna be a great day. It's gonna be a great day because the only thing we know is that we don't know anything. But guess what? We've got somebody in the room today who does know some things.
She knows.
She knows some things.
Knows some things, dude.
Pumped about that. We'll tell you who that is in just a second. Can I tell you a quick story real
Yeah,
fast?
please do.
So, Noah is in kindergarten this year. Got a great phone call from his teacher last night.
Your eyes are sparkling, James.
Are they? My eyes
you're
are sparkling?
smiling. You're smiling and
So,
happy.
so Tara's, we're sitting there. We just finished dinner. Me and the boys are heading upstairs to have the nightly Nerf battle before bed.
Yep.
And Tara gets a text message from Noah's teacher. Hey, are you working? Can I call you? And Tara says, sure. And so she gets a phone call. And her the teacher said that Noah, in the middle of class, started asking all of his friends if they knew Jesus. And so she was calling just to tell Tara that, which is pretty cool. You know, when you see that in your
Kudos
chest.
to the teacher.
Kudos to the teacher.
That's a strong story.
Strong story.
That reminds me of the song, Don't Let Anyone Look Down on You Because You Are Young. Set up an example for the believers in speech. Now you say it back. In speech.
I think that's the wrong progression.
In life.
I think it's
In love. In faith and in
Oh,
purity.
you're right. That's it.
I'm right.
That's it.
1 Timothy 4:12.
Is it for? No, that's it. Good job, Sam. Good work.
Lyrics, bro.
Lyrics.
I don't
That's
know
it.
why lyrics
That's it.
get in my head, but I can remember
Just stick
lyrics.
there.
Lyrics and
So today on the podcast, you had a great idea.
Yeah.
Because
a rare great idea.
great idea.
It was a gem.
But post COVID,
Yeah.
and probably pre COVID, but just hidden. Post COVID, we have seen anxiety and depression and loneliness and the inability to focus. All of that has ramped up tremendously to the point where if you look at studies that are coming out today, millennials and younger are dealing with mental health issues at epidemic levels, literally never before seen levels. And what we're starting to understand is that the church is not immune to that. People in the church are not immune to that. Just because you follow Jesus doesn't guarantee that your mental health is going to be perfect and safe and secure all the days of your life. And so post-COVID, we're seeing, teenagers dealing with loneliness like never before. We're seeing anxiety like never before. And a lot of people, pastors, leaders, parents, a lot of people don't know how to deal with that, how to answer questions from their kids or their coworkers or their friends, their neighbors about mental health. It's just a conversation that a lot of people are not prepared to have. And so we're seeing people struggle, and we're seeing people hurting, and we're seeing things being swept under the rug or just left alone that really need to be dealt with and talked about. Because our goal here on this podcast, we want to, from time to time, make you spit your coffee out because you're laughing on the way to work in the morning. But we also want to add value to your life.
Definitely.
And we want to hopefully move some conversations forward that need to happen.
And to your point, happen between just normal people.
That's it. We're between parents and kids and coworkers in the office and
some people with a lot of experience.
Yeah,
some people with very little experience.
Totally.
Yeah.
So today we're gonna wade into the waters of how the brain works and mental health a little bit, and in order to do that, we have the one and only Caitlin Lybrand in the house. Caitlin is a good friend.
Yeah.
Caitlin is she has a degree, an undergrad degree in psychology, and is currently working on a master's degree in counseling. She's a few months away from being an LPC, getting some letters behind her name there. She's also married to the one and only JD Lybrand.
That's it.
Which I think she gets extra jewels in her crown in heaven for that.
We love JD.
We love you, JD. And you're a lot.
Hey, JD can play some disc golf. You ever played disc golf with him?
No, I have not, but I've heard he can. He's invited me many times, but he always invites me on Sunday afternoons, and I don't play disc golf on Sunday
afternoons. When I first got
afternoons.
down here to Somerville, he and Eddie took me out to play some disc
There you
golf
go.
with him.
There you go.
That was the first time I ever spent any time with Eddie too. So we had
There
a
you
great
go.
time.
There you go.
Throwing some disc
JD is the man,
at a chain net.
and we're glad to have Caitlin here today. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to step out of this conversation and let you and Caitlin take it from here and teach us on the topic of mental fortitude and how to process what we're feeling, thinking, dealing with in a way that ultimately leads us to a healthier mental place.
That's the goal. Yeah. Thanks, James, for introducing her so well. We're going to get after it, dude.
Let's do it.
Yep. Welcome to the first Lawson Brothers episode that you've been on. Caitlin Lybrand, what's happening?
Thank you. I am excited to be here. A little nervous, but hopefully I can do justice to the world of psychology.
World of Psychology. Sweet. So there's the camera. Those are all the YouTube viewers. You can't see them, but they can see you.
Yeah.
Tell us who you are.
Who am I?
Who are you?
That's a loaded question, Sam.
That's why I asked it.
I think the answer that I'm supposed to say, because I'm sitting in a church, is I'm a child of God.
Dude, be honest. Let's talk.
You want to know who I am?
Let's talk.
My name is Caitlin, right? I am the wife of JD, which I take as an honorable title, not because he controls me, but because I love my husband, and I was told to submit to him, and I do that. But I am many things. I get to be a preschool teacher to wonderful little kids every day, which I really love, and I'm trying to be a counselor. But I think, who am I, right? That question is very loaded. I hold many titles, but at the end of the day, I am someone, one of God's vessels, who is trying to better the lives of children. Like when people ask you, like, what do you want to do with the rest of your life? I didn't know. I was I don't know what I want to do with the rest of my life, but I want to make children's life better because of my experiences. And so that is what I feel that God has put me on this earth to do. And so that's who I am. I am a child of God who does many things and is very busy, but is ultimately trying to glorify him through his children.
Yeah. I love that. Want to make children's lives better and use your experiences to do it. I've got some random questions so that we can get to know you a little bit. Are you ready for this?
I apologize now if you guys are like, what are y'all talking about? We're just going to start talking.
These are some random questions, okay?
Wonderful.
And you gave me a challenge, and I'm going to give you a challenge. Take 5 words, if you can, to answer them.
Okay.
All right? We're going to do it.
Because I told you were supposed to do that, but you never did it.
All right. Yeah. Here we go. You ready? What do you like to do for fun?
Hang out with people.
Ooh, that was 4 words. Nice. All right. Words that don't make sense.
I don't know. That makes sense. I know that makes sense. I guess anything about like a phobia. I mean, it makes sense, but like if you hear the word like agoraphobia, that's the fear of leaving your house. But I don't think agoraphobia, like that's a weird word.
Yeah, no. Here's a name that doesn't make sense to me. Penelope. Sorry if your name's Penelope, but I just don't know.
What do you have wrong with Penelope?
I don't know what it means. The roots, are there any Latin or Greek suffixes in it?
Do you know every person you've ever met, the origin of their name?
No.
That's a little judgy.
All right, here we go. All right, you ready? Favorite places to eat in Somerville?
Oh. My favorite place to eat is picnicking in Azalea Park. It's not a restaurant per se.
All right, we can tap into some personality stuff from there, right? All right.
Oh, goodness. You're going to psychoanalyze me right now?
What about your personality would you say caused you to, I said pick places, like normal people, I think, would say, I just said you're not normal. I'm not normal.
I'm not normal either.
Yeah,
That's okay.
we embrace that, right?
Normal
All right.
is boring.
Normal is so boring. I feel Braden's gonna have a lot to edit out. Sorry, Braden. I feel like a lot of people would have said restaurants, and you said a place.
Well, I'm very cheap. You can ask my husband.
You're very cheap?
We are poor. We are balling on a budget these days. But also, I got engaged at a picnic in Azalea Park, and that's something that me and JD did all the time. Was we went on picnics during COVID because we couldn't do a lot of things. So, like, yes, I like eating at Matt's Burgers. They're great. But like, if I thought of like places to eat, I'd much rather have a picnic somewhere, or like, just that's an experience to me where I can forget a lot of different experiences sitting at restaurants, or I can remember a lot of them depending on what happens. But I always remember a good picnic.
Okay, and you remember, would you say, and this is kind of just my thought, but my favorite places to eat are very much so associated with great memories there.
Yeah.
One of my favorite places to eat is Bobby Guerin's in Pickens, South Carolina. Have I told you about that?
Totally know what that is.
Do you?
No.
I was like, that'd be crazy if you did. Bobby Guerin's is in downtown Pickens.
Okay.
It's shut down now. Lady named Gig owned it. She owned a lot of houses like on Main Street, and lady's probably seen more money than I'll ever see in my life. Is that true, James? Would you say that? Yeah, James is affirming. He's saying fact in the background. Bobby Guerin's is just a hole in the wall. Think like old 50s, 60s diner.
Okay.
You walk in, and it's a long, narrow restaurant. On one side, you've got the booths, and on the other side, you've got the bar.
Okay.
Where they're cooking the food, doing all that. I would walk in once a week with a group of guys. We would meet in high school. Once we started driving, of course, to eat breakfast there. Do a little bit of Bible study. James would come sometimes, and that sort of thing. It was just hangout time, right? Same people would be there when we'd go there. A guy named Jerry smoking a cigarette on the front steps of it. We're walking in. Huh?
While he's cooking.
Yeah, he's also smoking cigarettes while
Great
he's
health
cooking
benefits.
over the food. Great health. And funny enough, this is going to sound really creepy now that I'm saying this.
Oh, good.
On the right side of the wall, above the booths, are just like rows of pictures of kids. And one of the kids' pictures that's on there is actually Tara, James's wife.
See, this
There's
is
a
wonderful.
Baby. It's Kate. She's on there twice.
So can you tell me why they put the kid's picture and make this less creepy?
Because it's a family-oriented restaurant, and through the years, I mean, generations have come through the doors of Bobby Guerin's, and so there are numerous families and people that have lots of memories associated with this restaurant, myself included. What is
your memory or is there many?
No, well, there are many. Just to kind of paint the picture of the type of restaurant this is, on the back of the booth that's in the corner, like in the most like distant, far off corner, dirty, disgusting, all that kind of stuff. Sitting there one morning, and I'm eating, and then behind the guy that's in front of me comes a cockroach just walking across the back of the booth.
I have heard the story.
What are some of your favorite restaurants you're from New York, right?
Yes.
Yeah, what are some of your favorite restaurants, or what's your favorite restaurant that you have the most memories associated with from your childhood?
We didn't go out to eat a lot, but the Cheesecake Factory is the best restaurant. But I don't know. Like I think we were talking about this last week. I don't know. It was at church. Not church. I don't even know. It doesn't matter. But I was talking with Tara, actually, about the Cheesecake Factory. I don't know that I've eaten an entree from the Cheesecake Factory, but I know that cheesecake and their deep fried mac and cheese balls are worth it. And so I don't know, again, restaurants are a little different based on the way I grew up and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But like Friendly's. I don't know if any of you are from the North, have ever been to a Friendly's or a diner. Those are northern restaurants that I have some memories of. Like after prom.
What is Friendly's? What is that?
Friendly's is like a kid diner. Okay. They have dip and chicken. They have soda that is blue. It's where ice cream makes the meal. Anyone who knows what I'm talking about is singing the jingle along with me. It's just like a kid-centered diner. And so like, again, blue raspberry soda. And they literally put chicken fingers on a stick and you got to dip it in different parts.
You're kidding
of
me.
your like
Does
cone.
it still exist?
A few of them still exist. So my nephew, I have 3 nephews and a niece, but my nephew, who is 3. He just turned 4. He loves Friendly's. So he called me the other day, and my nephews call me Aunt Rue. He's like, Aunt Rue, we went to Friendly's. Have you ever been to Friendly's? And I was like, Finn, you have no idea. I have been to Friendly's.
I need to try to find a Friendly's if I'm ever going up north or something. That'd be wild. That'd be wild.
I don't know if it's your first destination. I would eat the pizza and the bagels and the Chinese.
Okay.
But Friendly's, it's nostalgic. That is my nostalgic restaurant.
That's great. That's great. Vocabulary matters.
Yeah.
Doesn't vocabulary matter?
Of course.
I feel like we can totally have a conversation about the importance of vocabulary.
Yeah.
And then kind of tie it together with even how we think about memories, the vocabulary that we associate with our memories and our experiences really has a lot to do with how we carry ourselves, right?
Yeah, and I think before we start this conversation, it's important to people to know that don't know me. In my master's program, I see actual clients. And so I see clients, my youngest client is 5 and my oldest client is 62. And so I teach them a lot of the same things, but I use different vocabulary for it. But knowing that when I talk about teenagers in my life, I'm not talking about the average teenager, which, yes, there is a lot of fear and anxiety and depression and sadness within them, but it's become this like idea that like because I am sad and I like to sit alone in my room, like I'm depressed. But that's not true. Yes, it is normal for you to be tired and for you to feel like you don't want to do anything after working for a long day. That's not depression, right? But that's sadness, and it's important to value your emotions. It's the same with anxiety. We all have a level of anxiety, right? It's like, and that could be used as stress. Like we have positive stress and negative stress. And when we have negative stress, that's the one that we think of like, oh, I'm tired because I'm so stressed. But if you think about winning the lottery, that's a stressful experience. That's eustress, rather, right? That's positive stress. And then there's also like if I walked in the room and like my husband cooked me dinner, I would be like, wow, that's exciting. But my body would feel stressed. Like I would feel a level of anxiety because I can't control the situation. Like anxiety basically is I can't control what's going on. And when you come into the world that we live in, there's a lot of things we can't control. And so it's normal to have regular anxieties about things. But just because I have some anxieties does not mean that I have generalized anxiety disorder. And so there are 5 different types of anxiety disorders too. So
yeah,
again,
can we just go ahead and jump in?
Sure.
Talk to us.
So I feel like I'm taking a test right now.
No, this is great. This is really great.
It's also important to know that there are different diagnoses in the DSM-5, which is the diagnostic manual and the criteria for mental health. So I'm a counselor, and so I don't do research necessarily, but
not a psychologist.
Not a psychologist, no.
But a counselor.
Right. Okay. And so I talk through a lot of stories kind of thing. That's my narrative therapy is something that I do. It's not my true lens because all counselors have lenses in which they do their studies, but I do use a lot of narratives. And so, but according to the DSM, back to where I was talking about, like agoraphobia, like I mentioned before, that's the fear of leaving your house. That's an anxiety disorder. There's socialized anxiety disorders, which is like talking to people is scary, right? There's generalized anxiety, which is like, I just have excessive worry about everything else. Phobias, specific phobias is another one. Like I am afraid of a very specific thing, right? That doesn't mean I'm anxious about everything, but I have severe phobia of spiders. Like if I think about spiders, I'm probably going to cry, shut down and stuff like that. Is different than like, I just don't like spiders. Like I can name about 17 teenage girls that would say they're afraid of spiders, but that doesn't mean they have a phobia to it. And so there's one other one, which I'm missing right now. And of course I can't remember it. And someone's probably yelling it out to me in the world, but there is 5 different types of anxieties too. And so there is a lot of anxiety too. Like let's talk about COVID. That changed everyone's world.
Yeah, it did.
Right? Like people that weren't afraid of germs now are like, what do you mean? There's these germs out there that can get me sick.
Were you at CSU when COVID hit and like really took over the world? What was going on in your life?
So talking about memories, so flashbulb memories are memories that we all have based on a situation that happened like in history. So 9/11, JFK shooting are flashbulb memories that most people would have. I don't think me and Sam know because we're young. Sorry.
True.
But COVID, like I can tell you the exact moment I was when I found out the world shut down. And so we were on spring break, and I started hearing about COVID and how the University of South Carolina was shutting down. And I was with my roommate, and my roommate was like, "This is a joke." And I was like, "Maybe it will."
It did seem like that. Though.
Well, then I had a paper that I had to write, and I didn't want to write it, so I was like, I'll take a week for COVID. Like,
Yeah.
that's okay, which might be bad. I didn't know that people were dying as much as they were. But
No, yeah.
And so then I went home for my.
It seemed really foreign to me, like
correct.
like far off in
yeah,
the distance.
and it's funny that you say that because that's how life is sometimes. Everything's really foreign until it's right in front of you, and it's like, oh, that's affecting me now.
Yeah.
So I was there, and I had flown back to New York for my oldest nephew's first birthday.
Cool.
And it became real because it was like all of these people are like, we're not coming to the birthday party because we don't want to get sick. And my sister was freaking out. She's like, what do you mean they're not coming? Like, I have food and stuff. And so that was on, his birthday is March 14th. So that was on the 13th. And we just went about our lives. And I got back on a plane the next day, March 15th. And I flew back to South Carolina. And everyone was like, you're crazy. Why are you going back to the South? And I was like, because I don't want to get stuck here. I love you all. But my friends are in South Carolina. And so I flew back to South Carolina. We were, me, JD, and my college roommate, Haley, shout out to you. We were sitting in a lounge and we were watching the TV, which I've done like twice. And that's when they're like, yeah, the world is shutting down because of coronavirus.
I totally relate. I was in my house at North Greenville. I lived with about 9 other guys, and we shared 3 bathrooms. The house was about as disgusting as you could probably imagine it, being with 9 dudes living in there, or 10 guys. We were actually about to watch the Pelicans play an NBA basketball game.
Oh, nice.
Zion Williamson had just kind of gotten into the NBA. He was taking over the stat world and showing out and doing some pretty wild stuff, and we were stoked to watch him play. But we didn't realize how big of a deal COVID was until they called the game off. And we were like, oh, my word, this is a big deal, and this is affecting a lot of people here in the U.S. And then from there on, it was like, okay, the next week, North Greenville's making some changes to the schedule, and all of us immediately kind of got overwhelmed with stuff because our class schedule changed. Online school came, which for us
rocked everyone's world.
It rocked everybody's world. It rocked our professors' world because people were starting to record like seminars and videos of them teaching lessons. And then it felt like the world instantly, at least my world that I was in upstate, was like, boom, we're all back in our homes with our families. We're staring at screens to get our education, and we're like isolated more than ever. And so now it's like, when I think about it, it's like there was a lot of good that came from COVID because I think people like got put in touch with really kind of what floods their mind and occupies their time and stuff. But now we have, because of COVID, I would say we have vocabulary, to bring it back to the vocabulary conversation. We have vocabulary for some of those experiences, and that we're trying to reason with it, right?
And I think it's important. So I don't want to upset anyone, but I'm going to say it.
Yeah, say it.
That COVID wasn't traumatic for everyone. Yes, it was traumatic in the sense that we had never experienced this before.
That's
but
true.
like looking at it from some of the lenses of like, I know some families that like genuinely got to know each other. Like they got to sit down and like have great times.
Yeah.
Was it a horrible circumstance? Yes. Would I ever ask for a pandemic again? No. But like if you think about it, it's all the perspective on the situation.
So good.
I got to hang out with my roommate Amanda, and I got to live with her family, and I love them. They are great people, and I got to do a lot of things I wouldn't have. I wouldn't have gotten to live with them in that community. And it's like my whole life motto is let's do life together. And so getting to do life with these people that are now, again, essentially like part of my family was amazing. Like, and yes, there was times that it was hard, and my COVID experience was wild without going into too much details. But there was sometimes like it was horrible and people died and it was sad, and it did bring up a lot of depression and a lot of burnout for careers. Like I know that people that were trying to counsel over like Zoom or not Zoom because that's not HIPAA compliant, but over their telehealth networks, and it's like I don't know how to help a 6-year-old. Like I can help him, but like after 30 minutes with a client that has ADHD, like I can't force them to sit at the table, right? And so a lot of things I do is like play-based, and it's like thinking about it, it changed our world, but it also, I think, brought to light how connected we can be when we're not connected.
Oh, that's so good. Let's go there now.
Okay.
Are you ready? So have you ever seen like movies or old rom-coms or
Of course.
shows that basically, Andy Griffith. Let's talk about Andy Griffith.
We can't talk about anything.
You ever seen that?
Nope.
All right.
I'm going to upset a lot of people.
Okay.
I don't watch movies.
That is bad. You need to go watch some Andy Griffith.
I've seen an episode or two with my mother-in-law.
Okay.
That's something I've seen.
Okay.
But continue your point.
Yeah. In a lot of those old shows, we're both in our early 20s.
Correct.
I kind of envy shows like that where the kids just leave the house and take off down the street on their bicycles.
My parents did that. That's not that old. My brother and sister went off and took out on their bicycles. We are like the first year of, or not the first years, but we're part of that generation that social media became a thing. And like, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to play video games for 7 hours.
Right.
I don't think a lot of people, and some of them did, but I don't think a lot of those people were doing that like for so many years before.
Yeah.
But that brings up, and I think this is what you're going to get to, because you envy the fact that they could just go and it was safe and it was free to them.
They could go and it was safe, but also like I've heard some people who are mutual friends of ours talk about how COVID gave them opportunities to just go down the street in their neighborhood again for the very first time and like hang out with their neighbors and just play games. And for me at North Greenville for a little while, we were still crossing our fingers that we were going to get to do this Scottish musical that we were preparing. But what it did for us at North Greenville was like, we do have 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 hours today to just sit around and play rook or play like spades or
it did show. And
anagrams, right?
I think I find myself now in the busyness of my life because, I mean, you're busy, I'm busy. We do a lot of things.
Yeah, we do.
I wish sometimes that I could have like a day of no responsibility. I don't wish for COVID again because that almost plays into the, like, we can be so connected and so hopeless at the same time, right? Like, we can be so connected, like, with, when you're like, I don't have how many times, like, me and my friends, we played Spice Uno, and we made new rules for, like, we were playing the intense, like, tournament version of Spice Uno. That's how much, like, it was going on. But there was this level of, like, if you didn't have those people around, like I know for my mom, like not being able to hug her children was so hard, but we could FaceTime. Like I was talking on the phone with her. I was seeing her more than I ever did, but there's still this sense of like loneliness. Like we can be so connected, and that's kind of what happens sometimes on social media too. I can be in a room full of people, right? Or I can be on social media. I can be in a game format where I'm talking to all these people and feel nothing because I'm not getting true connection.
I totally am with you on that. I agree. For me, and I think you might say the same thing. I learned about my capacity to give time to people as well.
Yes.
I learned about my capacity to take in information.
Yes.
And to kind of regulate myself and to regulate my thoughts and even regulate my emotions, I would say. What I was doing during COVID, every day, just about every day, and I was playing music and doing that kind of thing and staying connected with some people through that, working on some recording projects with Mountain Experience and stuff like that. So I saw people through that, but every day I was waking up and gardening outside, was getting my hands in the dirt, working with my dad outside, and really thankful for that time. And COVID, yes, so many people are grieving because of it.
We're not dismissing that.
Absolutely. Very hard time.
Traumatizing,
and I had it several times, and some people really dealt with a lot of loss through COVID, and so my heart goes out to those people. But for the sake of the conversation, I would like to submit that in my own personal perspective, like COVID in some ways, and let's stretch it even bigger than COVID.
Well, let's call it lockdown. Let's not the being locked down and stuck with people is really what was impactful, not the disease.
Yeah, a lot, and even bigger than that, COVID and the lockdown, but even other things in our lives, I think God uses as mediums to get our attention in some ways.
Yes.
This very much so was a time that got my attention in some ways. Can you talk to that a little bit?
Yeah, I can. So I'm going to start with a personal experience.
Yeah.
So I do a lot of things right now. I know I've said that like 18 times, but really just I am a flaming extrovert. I have coined the phrase flaming extrovert because I love people. I do. But I work and I do internship and I'm always around people. And so I am taking this class about attachment theory, which kind of goes back to like based on your parents in the first 5 years of your life, how are you the person who you are? And so God kind of stopped me and called me out. I had to do this exercise and it was like a chart and it was like, I had to compare when I'm with people too much, when I'm not with people enough, and then when I'm balanced, like when there's balance in my life. And I don't ever think there's too many time for people. I think that people are great all the time. But then I learned that if I'm with people too much, I give them control of my emotions because that people pleaser in me comes out because I don't want to upset them and I don't want to, right? And so that experience, my past has now said like, I I can't always be with people. And like for me right now, this season of life, where I'm getting my master's and I'm trying to figure out how to be a wife, and I'm also like trying to be a good teacher for my kids. There's a lot going on, right?
Sure,
but that's
sure.
how, and God like took that opportunity, and I'm trying to let him, right, to call me out on some things that I needed to fix. And I think that God does that in ways that we don't understand. Like, there is always two sides to every story. Well, there's only three sides to every story, right? There's one person, the other person, and the truth. But it's based on your perspective. Like, I could say, like, I'm just I'm like really tired and I'm really stressed, and that's why I'm feeling over emotional. Or I can say, like, God is stopping me right now and he wants me to listen to my emotions because God gave me those emotions.
Yeah.
Like, emotions are not bad. I just want to say that. Like, say that out loud again. Like, emotions are not bad. They're part of us, but the way we react to our emotions or the way we regulate our emotions is what matters.
Right,
and
right.
some people don't have those emotional regulation skills, but when you pair that with a faith in God, that's when you're saying, like, okay, like, my emotions are okay, they're from God, but what are my emotions telling me?
Yeah. So we've probably got a lot of people listening that have different experiences.
Yeah.
That are coming from a place. You said it beautifully. We've got a lot of titles, right? We've got a lot of things that we're doing, that we're a part of, and all of which are blessings from God that he's given us to steward well.
Oh, yeah.
And to shine light.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's take a few minutes, just as we kind of wrap up the conversation, let's shine some light.
Yep.
And I want to ask you to do it, if you will. Just shine some light on how, with a lot of titles, with a lot of emotions, with a lot of circumstances, even with a lot of people, how does your faith influence your perspective?
So this is a good question. And James kind of asked me a similar question last week.
Okay.
And what I can say is that for me, and I can only speak to my experience. So someone else might experience something different. But for me, my faith is the guiding of my experience.
Cool.
So like for me, and I'm going to need you to restate the question in a minute when I stop. Like, my faith is what drives what I believe, right? And so I learn a lot about, like, what the world might say, or, like, what a lot of people are talking about mental health right now. And a lot of people are talking about it in different ways. And I listen to a lot of different things, but I have decided that God and the Bible are my checks. And I also have people in my life, mentors, people that are in specific areas that I know I can check myself with. And that's not saying that I believe everything they say, because we're all sinners and we're all falling short. But ultimately, like, I know that I have people I can go to if I'm confused about a biblical topic or psychological topic. But I also know that I can pray to God, right, for my own discernment and understanding that, like, God, the Bible is my truth.
Amen.
Like, that's what you have to decide. What is your truth? I hope that it's the Bible, but some people, music is their truth. Some people, social media is their truth. And that's what you have to check it with. And I've decided that the Bible is what I'm going to check it with. And I can tell you 97% of what I believe as a counselor comes because I can check it with what God said. And the other 3% is pending. Like, I don't necessarily say everything I think in front of a counselor, in front of a client. I might talk it with my supervisor, but knowing that if I can't find biblical truth, or I don't get that feeling of the Holy Spirit when I'm talking about something, then I need to check it and I need to find people that know it. And that's not to say that people don't lie and deceive.
Yeah. I love what you're saying about truth. Jesus, one of the most powerful statements he ever made was, I am the way, the truth, and the life, right? And so if you're looking for truth out there, I think Caitlin and I would definitely endorse the fact, hey, if you haven't given Jesus a chance, just see who he is. Go take the word of God for what it says and try to take it literally. And Caitlin, I want to ask you too, you're a counselor for a reason, right?
Yes.
Why are you two questions, and maybe we can land with some encouraging thoughts here, right?
Yeah.
Two questions. The first one, why are you a counselor?
Because that's what God called me to be. That's the only answer,
Cool.
and I'm not saying that because I'm sitting in a church. I had a plan for my life. I was on my knees, like, feeling hopeless, like it wasn't going to work, and God, like, knocked on the door and was like, hey, like, you want to help children, this is a way you can help children. And then I was in my intro to counseling class, and she was like, why are you here? And I was like, because I got to graduate. And so my professor, who is one of my very good mentors and still teaches me in the counseling program, was like, okay. And so for 9 weeks, I told her I was sitting in that class because I had to graduate. Cool. And then finally God had said, like, hey, you have no other option here. You can try it your way. It's good luck. But counseling with COVID and everything, it worked out. And there are some days where I feel like God is the only reason why I'm still doing it, right? Like there are some times where I'm sitting in a session and I'm like, okay, like God, please give me the words, and they just come out, right?
Yeah, I love that. The other question is, all right, we've talked a lot. We've talked about experiences. We've talked about the power of vocabulary.
Yep.
We've talked about how we should see things, so our perspective. Yep. Give us, from a counselor's perspective, and also a woman who is running after Jesus, who's married, active church member, right? Give us some practical next steps for people who might be struggling with some mental health stuff or think they might be.
Well, so I almost bought a shirt the other day, and I wish I had so I could wear it, and it said, I have a counselor, but I also have Jesus. I think we need to, as a church, end that stigma of I go to counseling because I'm weak, or if I go to counseling, then I don't believe in Jesus, or I have to go to counseling because God's not enough. That's not true. I know I have a list of counselors who are founded, like their foundation is in faith, and like they want to help you. I think that's the first thing we have to do is say like, hey, there's no shame in asking for help.
So good.
And I struggle with asking for help.
I've needed help before.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But I also think it's finding a trusted person, right? And like that's what we're supposed to do. Like it's accountability, one, which you guys have talked about before, but it's also like my life motto is let's do life together, which I think I said previously, but there is real truth and growth in getting a strong foundation of Christians around you, which similar age or even just similar experiences, and letting them talk into your life. And so there's first, I would say, acceptance and ending the stigma, but also a humility to say, I don't have all the answers every day.
Yeah.
I know that I've said something wrong here. I'm going to be honest with you, but I also know that I'm a sinner and I mess up. And that's a hard reality for people to face. It's okay. I can give myself the grace to feel sorry, but that's what my biggest thing is like, there should be no shame in asking for help. It's not like you have to hide it. And if you do feel like you have to hide it, that is your truth, and that might be safe for you. But everyone's truth is different. Everyone's life is different, but we all have to be grounded in that truth of just like being okay.
Yeah, I love it. Caitlin, thank you for your time and just for pouring your heart out for the last few minutes and sharing with us. Maybe we can wrap up this conversation.
Wait, I have a question for you.
Oh, you do?
I had to answer all the questions. Now you could answer questions.
Okay,
so
what's up?
I asked everyone this question, and I'm pretty sure I've already asked you it, but I think it's important. So I'm going to give you 5 minutes to answer this question,
okay,
or maybe less than 5. Yeah. But what is your life motto?
What is my life motto?
Yes, I talk about mine all the time.
Yeah, my life motto is less doubts, more action. Okay. Less doubts, more action. I think in a very early episode, I kind of hinted towards that. Okay. It comes from a Bible that I had growing up. I still have it. It's a little FCA. It's an FCA Bible. Mm-hmm. I think the theme of the year for that FCA camp was game ready. Okay. It was orange blue thing. Okay. Somebody out there remembers that game ready. But James wrote I don't even know why he wrote it. Never asked him. I think it's his handwriting. I honestly don't even know whose handwriting it is, but I think it's his.
More to find out in the future.
But I had that Bible, and I've always loved it and held on to it, but it says in it, somewhere is written, like in the front cover, less doubts, more action. And it's always stuck with me. So you and I relate a lot, which is why we're having this conversation. I think just about you're a counselor and you're pursuing more degrees. Yeah. And No,
I'm done after this one.
Okay,
let's not say that. My mom's probably like cringing, like, what do you mean?
What do you mean?
No, master's is the end goal right now.
Okay. But you and I both get to do every day. We get to do work that is around people, that's for people, to the glory of God.
Amen.
And so we're both challenged with thinking. We're both challenged with listening and choosing perspective to bring to our tables. And so my whole life, I think since that statement has stuck in my head, I've just had to come back to it constantly, because what we do every day does provide the opportunity for the lies of the enemy to jump into our ears and start saying, "Hey, you're not enough," and all this stuff. And I'm not enough.
Nope.
But I know Jesus, and Jesus, he has perfected his love in me, and therefore I can combat the lies of the enemy. I can combat the anxious feelings at times. I can combat the seasons of feeling like you're depressed or sad or whatever, right?
And I think that goes back to, too, is that, like, just say yes for Christ.
Just say yes.
It takes 10 seconds of confidence, right, to start something. Yeah. And then you're in it, right?
So
and so that's how I am an anxious person. I'm a counselor that has anxiety sometimes. I think that's important to know, that counselors aren't perfect.
No.
And so, but I have learned, especially, and James has done a good job at doing this. I don't think it's intended to humble me, but it's like he is not afraid to put me in a situation that I might think I can't do on my own. But saying yes for God is saying that I know that God is going to equip me. And that's what I talked about the other day when I did my devotional at Pinewood, is that, like, because God is our commissioner, we can say yes when he asks us to do something.
So good. So good. Can we land the plane? Can we land it? You ready to land it?
I think we should.
Ephesians 2:4, but God, being rich in mercy, because of the great love with which he has loved us, even when we were dead in our trespasses, made us alive together with Christ. By grace you have been saved, and raised us up with him and seated us with him in the heavenly places in Christ Jesus, so that in the coming ages he might show the immeasurable riches of his grace and kindness toward us in Christ Jesus. Caitlin, thank you so much for being here today.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
Hey, thanks for joining us today on the Lawson Brothers Podcast. Hope you enjoyed the conversation between Sam and Caitlin. What a powerful thing to consider, the intersection between faith and our brains and how all of that works. I hope that you took something away from this conversation today.
We hope you did. Balancing your emotions, balancing your experiences and processing them, and even verbalize them by talking to people and getting help is a great step to the next liberating thing that you might need.
Can we just reiterate that really quickly today? If you're struggling, get help.
Absolutely.
Find, if it's a counselor or if it's a pastor or a friend, but don't struggle alone. Don't struggle in the dark. Drag whatever you're struggling with into the light, because healing comes in the light.
Amen. So let me give a little endorsement to a for what it's worth, an endorsement from me. Oh my gosh. There's an album that Christian Stanfill put out recently.
Oh, that's good.
It's called Make It Out Alive. There's a lot of good songs on there, but one of the songs is entitled We Need People by Christian Stanfill. Yeah. So go listen to that. He's a Christian. He's an artist, but he's a real dude, and he's writing real music.
And he wrote this album, if I'm not mistaken, he wrote that out of a place of deep struggle with mental health and some addictive tendencies, and that's kind of his anthem of hope. You're gonna make it out alive as you learn to anchor your life to something deeper, something beyond feelings, emotions, temporary stuff.
Totally. We all need the anchor, right?
Absolutely. Good stuff. Good stuff. Well, hey, thanks for listening today. Have a great Blue Flame day.
Love you.